Title: The Power of Flowers. Written by Oh My Tang. You were walking, well, more like limping, down a dirt trail heading to the nearest two-story house. You had just got out of a heavy mission that had you battle three different demons, each stronger than the last. Yes, you succeeded in your mission, but you had injured your left arm, and you felt like you had broken something on the side. You had your raven lead you by telling you how far you were and where to turn. So once he stated that it was just up ahead, you waved him off, and off he flew to wherever he goes to give a report of how your mission went. You saw the house just a few feet away. You sighed in relief. You were exhausted and hungry, not to mention. So once you got to the gate, a smaller elder lady smiled to you and had let you in. She showed you around and saw on. She had food ready, fresh clothes just for you, and just as she was heading to show you where you would be sleeping, she stopped and looked at you, a bit worried. Dear Slayer, I hope you do not mind, but we have three other Slayers staying here, all with injuries much like your own. And unlike most, we are a small house. We have one resting room and all three are sharing it as well. But would you mind sharing a room with them? I know a young lady shouldn't, but I would hate to have you sleep somewhere unpleasant or cramped up, like a closet space. She softly smiled to you. For as much as you hated sharing a sleeping space, you didn't want to seem rude or snobby to her. She looked so small and fragile. Of course not, ma'am. I do not mind at all. I understand. I grew up with three younger brothers, so it will feel like home. You smiled to her softly, and she seemed to perk up. All right then, just allow me to let them know, and I will bring you that way. She went a few doors and spoke to whoever was inside. After a moment, she waved you to come. These slayers are going to be here a bit longer than you, miss, but I assure you, they are no harm. You nodded and looked inside. You saw two boys sitting on the ground, and one was knocked out cold. One was blonde, the other had a big scar on his head, and lastly, the boy who was knocked out had a rather feminine face. They both looked at you and smiled. The blonde one seemed to light up at your sight, turning a bright red. The other just smiled and slightly bowed his head to you. Well now, you four, the lady spoke, make yourselves at home. I shall go and prepare tonight's supper. She bowed and made her leave. You slowly walked into the doorway and bowed to them both, smiling. Hello, I am YN. It is an honor to meet you. The one with scar spoke. Nice to meet you. I am Tanjiro Kamado. This here is Zenitsu Agatsuma, he stated, referring to the blonde boy. He was as red as a tomato and looked like he was fangirling on the inside. Weird. And this here is Inosuke. He is out cold as of now, but I'm sure you wouldn't mind having you here with us. He smiled to you. You slowly walked in, setting your things down on your sleeping mat, which was right next to Tanjiro's own. He seemed like the most normal out of the two you can see. You looked back at them once you were all settled and sitting down. So, what got you trained here for so long? Big fight? You asked, stretching a bit. Oh, yeah. Me and Zenitsu wanted to take out a demon that was snatching people and taking them to the dark mansion of some assortment. There we meet Inosuke. He was lost inside, so we helped get him out. Afterwards, we came here for rest. Doctor said we all have broken ribs and such, so I think we shall be here for a while, Tanjiro stated. Zenitsu walked over, sitting down on Tanjiro's mat next to him. So, Miss Wyan-chan, he stuttered, smiling. What kind of mission did you fulfill in order to get here? He propped his head in his hands, smiling like a doofus. Almost. It was cute, but still weird. Well, I was sent on a solo patrol mission, but I got tangled up with three demons of higher rank than most of the small ones in this area. So, yeah, I messed up my arms and my shoulders. I got two cracked ribs, but other than that, I'm just fine. They both look at you in awe. 3 demons? By yourself? Tanjiro said, impressed. Zenitsu cheered, grabbing your own hands and cupping them in his own. Wow, you were so strong, Wayan-chan. So amazing. I bet you could even protect me from those awful demons. You smiled, and as you went to say something, you were cut off by a big deep yell. It was that Inosuke guy. He jumped up, screaming, looking around like a madman. Where are we? Where's my boarhead? Who is that? He pointed to you. He looked mad, but he still had that feminine charm on his face. You stirred a bit, looking confused. So loud, you thought. Tanjiro and Zenitsu, both sweat dropped at the sound. Zenitsu looking more annoyed than Tanjiro. Tanjiro was smiling a bit nervously at him. It's okay, Inosuke. She's a slayer, just like us. And your mask is just over there. He pointed to a boar head that you didn't even notice across the room. Next to it, a big box. Weird. With that, Inosuke ran over, grabbed it, and placed it on as quickly as possible. He then turned and pointed at you once more. You, fight me. Right now. Prove your strength to the almighty Inosuke, Lord of the Mountains. He then began to laugh like crazy. No thanks. I can't fight right now. I said fight me. He cut you off. No, my arms are in motion now. Goodness, he is so rude. Zenitsu spoke, jumping up. Inosuke, she said no. Don't push a lady. Inosuke got in his face. I do what I want, Monetsu. That's not my name. The two argued for a while. Tanjiro gave you a soft smile. Please excuse them. They bump heads quite often. I am so sorry you have to hear it all. You smiled back at him. No, it's fine. My siblings were the same way, so it's nothing new, I promise. You both giggled a bit at them. I do understand. I had siblings as well, so I see what you mean. Had. That rang in your head. You didn't want to ask a personal question like that, but based on his slight saddened look, you didn't have to. You understood the feeling all too well. For yes, you had a family, a mother and 3 little brothers. You lost your brothers all to sickness, lost your mother to depression. It was just you. So you felt his pain, but you decided to change the mood a bit. It's fine, Zenitsu. You stood up, using the knowledge of how to handle childish fights. I accept the challenge, Lord of the Mountains. I, YN, uh, Goddess of the Flowers, shall take you on. You joked at him, winking at Zenitsu, who only smiled, nodding a bit as he turned red. You were no goddess, but you did know flower breeding style, so hey, good enough. A goddess of flowers? He spoke in shock, then froze. Oh, what the... All 3 of you looked at him confused. He was just standing there. It seemed like little flowers formed around his head. You tilted your head. Inosuke? He then jumped a bit and pointed at you in a dramatic way. Alright, goddess. I will let you pick the challenge. Because, you give mountain creatures food and stuff. That caught Zenitsu and Tanjiro off guard. He was being nice for once. To a girl? All because of you saying you were a goddess of flowers? Wow, he is one weird guy. You smiled to him, bowing a bit. Alright, Lord of the Mountains. We shall not fight then. Rather, we shall see who knows the most about flowers. If you were a Lord of the Mountains, you should not struggle with this. You spoke up, placing your one good hand on your hip. Tanjiro smiled and Zenitsu giggled. Inosuke blew a bit of steam and gladly accepted the challenge. You all got up and went to the small garden behind the wisteria house. It was a simple garden, and it was so peaceful. He looked around. It was very traditional, and there were all kinds of flowers beside wisteria ones. Once outside, you explained the challenge to him. Alright, Tanjiro and Zenitsu will keep count of how many plants and flowers you can correctly name. And you have to give one fact about a flower as you go. Can you handle that, Lord of the Mountains? He smiled at them, and Inosuke puffed his chest. Of course I can. Gampachido, keep my score. Tanjiro agreed and of course reminded Inosuke of his actual name. Zenitsu walked over to you and whispered, How did you come up with this idea? I have never seen him act so sane. You giggled. I had two younger brothers who act like you and him. And they like pretending to be powerful and stuff like that, so it's a game we would play. His eyes shined a bit at this. You are so amazing. And good with kids. You would make an amazing wife. He said, blushing to himself, almost in a dazed state. You shoot the last part off, and got ready. Alright, you ready? I was born ready. Tanjiro smiled standing in front of you both. 3, 2, 1, go. You were both off. Zenitsu followed you as Inosuke dragged Tanjiro with him. Time had passed as you both named flowers and so on, but soon enough, after about an hour of this, the elder of the house came outside to tell everyone dinner was done. So you all gathered back at the main door. Inosuke had 49 done. Tanjiro spoke. Zenitsu giggled. Chen had 50 done, meaning she won. Inosuke jumped and puffed up in rage and you smiled at him. You see his annoyance and extended your good hand. That's amazing, Inosuke. I have never met a mortal to even get past 20 when up against me. I praise you for your amazing knowledge. He looked at your hand, then at you. He froze. Tanjiro and Zenitsu patted your back and talked to one another as they both headed inside for supper. You sat and waited on Inosuke to unfreeze. So you sat down and he stood there for about 3 minutes. After about 3 minutes, he unfroze. You looked up to patting the spot next to you. He sat and looked at you. Or at least, you think he is. It's hard to tell with that boar head on him. You were a more worthy opponent to the great lord of the mountains. He stated, and you giggled. I thank you, flower goddess. You looked at him, for all your many blessings to the mountains and its life. You allowed another spring to come and much more bloom this year than last. You were caught off guard. He was being serious with you. He was not yelling or jumping around. This was a new side of him, and taking a big guess, you were the first to ever see it. He took off his boar head and got on one knee in front of you. I accept my defeat, for now, but as Lord of the Mountains, I shall one day beat you. He gave you a big grin, crunching his brows. You smiled. I can't wait for it, Inosuke, for you truly are the Lord of the Mountains, as you claimed. So I thank you for being true to me. He looked down. There was a small dandelion in front of him. He picked it up and held it to you. This. Here. I did not know its name, and it cost me, he said with slight rage. But he looked at you, the small flowers forming around him. What is it, goddess? He asked with a small red tint on his cheek. You smiled, trying not to laugh at him. You softly grabbed it from him. It's called a dandelion. They are not a flower, they are mere weeds. He looked a bit mad at this. You had to think of something fast before he flipped. They may just be everyday weeds, but they are very powerful. Being a weed masks their true power. His eyes widened. What power? Tell me, great goddess. He was back to his normal tone. So strange. It was fun. They grant one wish to whoever blows them away with a single breath. You gave it back to him. Go ahead. As a token of my gratitude, I shall give you this wheat of power for your one wish. He gave you a big smile and took it. Closing his eyes, I wish for another grand spring in the mountains. Then he blew it out in one breath. You couldn't help but smile at this. He wasn't just a rude grunt, he was actually just kind hearted of others. Just had a hard time showing it. You nod to him, standing up. I accept your wish, Inosuke, Lord of the Mountains. Now, let's go eat before the others eat it all. He jumped up, yelling as he did, and ran inside quickly, leaving you behind. You hear small yells of Tanjiro and Zenitsu as he entered the room and started eating. You smiled and followed. You walked into him and Zenitsu, fighting over food, and Tanjiro with a warm smile. You sat next to Tanjiro, who had managed to save you some food. You chatted with Tanjiro about Inosuke and other staff as well. The evening rolled on, and as night turned to day, you felt good about your newfound Slayer pals. You got to know each one of them as the days passed by, and you all healed up together. Especially you and Inosuke. Unlike the others, he said your name right and talked to you in a normal tone. He viewed you as an equal in a way. Tanjiro would always say how happy he was to see Inosuke have a real, normal friend who understood half of what he said. Zenitsu would always fangirl at you and would hold your hand time to time, which made Inosuke flip out because no mortal should ever touch a goddess. He sounded like Zenitsu when it came down to how to respect you. This went on all over your stay for 3 weeks or so. You also got to know more about Tanjiro and his family, only because you had to meet his sister Nezuko, who warmed right up to you quickly. You were nervous of her at first, but hey, this was a weird bunch of kids after all. Now, when she comes out of her box, she crawls in your lap or grab your hand, wanting head pats. This group really was like your second family. You loved it. Once you healed up, instead of heading off to a mission, you were allowed to hang around with the trio until they healed up as well. You all become very close and you were glad to not be a solo slayer. You and Inosuke had created a great relationship together. He would never admit it, but he looked up to you. Your power, strength, and he liked how your face looked. You made him feel things. It was weird, but he liked it. He enjoyed you as much as you did him. It was new and different in the best way. After they were all healed up, you all set out for your next mission. You traveled alongside them. You five together made one big, strange family. A hard-headed slayer and his demon sister, a boar man from the mountains, a blonde looking for courage and love, and a girl who was on a quest to find something new. You were all from different walks of life, yet because of a few injuries that broke you all down, you were able to build each other up into something big, something powerful, a family, something you had wished for so long. They really are powerful. You thought to yourself as you all walked on, looking at each of them and stopped at Inosuke, watching him argue with Zenitsu. You giggled, thanks to the strange power of a small weed, a dandelion.